Hey everyone, welcome back to Drive On. I'm your host, Scott DeLuzio, and today my guest is Gary Pacelli. Gary is a best selling author, retired detective, keynote speaker. He's a passionate skydiver, and he's survived not just unimaginable challenges in his life, but he's also fought back to shine as an inspiration for all of us, really. And so today, we're going to hear about his journey, his story, the experiences that he's gone through, and how he continues to defy the odds that he's been put against him. But with that, Gary, welcome to the show. Glad to have you here.
Great. Thank you so much. I really appreciate being here.
Yeah, absolutely. For the listeners maybe who aren't familiar with you and your story, tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, kind of who you are, and then we'll kind of get into your story, your journey that we were talking about here, and some of the challenges that you faced in a bit after that.
All right, great. Thanks. Yeah, so my story starts years earlier. I had just gotten out of the Marine Corps and I was working construction, and it was a great job, but I knew I didn't want to be doing it when I was 50 years old. I'm jackhammering on the highway. And so I had heard that the sheriff was hiring temporary workers to work in the jail. So the sheriff's office was about 2 blocks from my construction office. So I got out of work early one day and I rushed over there and just to make an appointment to see the sheriff because, I was covered in concrete dust. I just looked nasty, and, so I just, again, with the intention just to talk to his secretary. So I'm talking to the secretary and I didn't realize though the sheriff was in his office and the door was open. Well, he yelled out, who is that? What does he want? So, the secretary explains, I'm here for a job. He said, hey, send him in. Right. So, all right, well, here I go. So I walk in the end, I'm just nasty looking, and, I explained to him, I had just gone out of Marine Corps boot camp and, infantry school, and I was a reservist. So, and I heard he was hiring temporary workers and he ended up hiring me right on the spot. Just, he heard Marine, that was it. That was good. So I started out as just a temporary worker in the county jail and, you know, just to work my way up. The sheriff took a liking to me. He sent me, after the corrections academy, he sent me back to the police academy. Then I was a motorcycle cop for like 10 years. And then I made detective and I was assigned, a new sheriff came in and he assigned me to narcotics and attached me to the DEA as a task force officer. So, that was great, but it was a step up for me. I thought I was a great detective, right? But now I'm in a whole nother world. This is like, you know, it's such a leap that it's almost like, just going from climbing a ladder to being sent to the moon. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, and it was great though. Like, cause I was with all my friends cause our unit, our group was just, um, 8 guys from the sheriff's department that were handpicked. And I had worked with these guys since I started in the jail. We all kind of came up together. Right. And 2 DEA agents. Right. So we had our own special little unit and, it was just great. It was like cops and robbers, right? You played when you were a kid, but it was for real now.
Sure.
We had very little supervision too. And we're young and, we were gung ho, right? We just wanted to do the job. So we didn't really need supervision, right? Because we were there to do the job. And we had some great, drug busts, 440 kilos of coke, 200 kilos of coke. It was just wild stuff. And, everything was going great. And one day I'm on a normal surveillance, right? Nothing special about the job, right? We had an informant and he told us that there was someone coming up from Virginia to pick up a load of coke. And, it was a Friday. We knew we had the hotel till Monday, right? So nothing was going to be happening until probably Sunday night. So it was kind of relaxed, whatever. And, we followed him from, New Jersey into New York, over the George Washington Bridge into Washington Heights area. And at the time, that was a big money laundering area of New York. So, we followed him around. He went from like bodega to bodega, just talking on his phone, nothing crazy. Right. And it's just a normal day. And, but the mood changed, right? Like suddenly, like, I don't know. I'm very sensitive to those kind of things, right? I always was. My lieutenant used to always like to keep me close to him. He would say that like my antennas went out further than everybody else's. So like call it our spidey senses, whatever.
Sure.
But um, that day, man, it was like it was something was off. I could feel it.
Hmm.
And it just around 1 o'clock that it started to change, and so the target started moving, and my sergeant ordered whoever was on the target, the closest. We call it the eye. Whoever had the eye of the suspect, that if he went back to New Jersey and he made the U-turn before his hotel, he wanted whoever was on him to pull him over and ID him, right? Now this is it's unheard of, right? We're undercover on surveillance. We're not even supposed to be seen, right? So
Hmm.
we're dressed in t-shirts, shorts, and it's wrong for so many reasons. We could blow the whole job because it's going to spook the guy, right?
Yeah.
Or the guy could just panic, whatever. Everything, nothing good can come from it. In other words, so I called my sergeant up. He was a good friend of mine, and I said, what are we doing? Why are we doing this? And he's like, well, it's not me. It's our supervisor was sitting in a high rise building in Newark, New Jersey, and for some reason he wanted to be relevant. He's listening to the radio, and he just he wanted this guy ID'd, and we already knew who he was. It was a ridiculous order.
Hmm.
And my sergeant had called the Fort Lee Police Department to see if they could make the stop for us. With a marked unit. They were all tied up. It's a busy department. So it fell on us, right? So, okay, we got to do what we got to do. And as luck would have it, as we came over George Washington Bridge, there was a lot of traffic, and that's a crazy area. I don't know if you know that area at all.
I've just been in that area a couple weeks ago, so I'm familiar. Just the amount of time to get from Newark to the city, it was just insane.
Yeah, so you totally understand
Yeah.
that, and plus the construction, everybody got spread out. Half the guys lost everybody.
Hmm.
I ended up being the only guy out on the target, right? So, of course, he makes the U-turn, and I hit my emergency lights. It's an undercover car,
Yeah.
but we still have lights,
Sure.
and a little chirp of a siren. He pulls over, right as he gets onto the highway, he pulls over to the shoulder, and I pull over. I get out of the car. I take my badge out. Right, that's all I got. Right, so I walk up to the car, and I know what I'm going to say to him. It's just we think it's something to say. Like I was going to tell him that we had a report of a stolen car. That matches this description. It's obviously not you, but I need to see your driver's license. Something just that he
Generic.
might
Right.
believe, right?
Yeah.
We didn't get that far, right? So I asked him for his driver's license, and he went to hand it to me with his right hand, and he reached over. And when I went to grab it, he pulled his hand in, right? And, I guess I was being a little complacent, whatever. I reached into the car, which is a giant no-no.
Hmm.
But when I did, though, I noticed that his foot was on the brake. And I looked, and the car was in drive. And we looked, our eyes met, and he hooked my arm, and he punched the gas, right? And man, so now he's heading into it's Route 4 in New Jersey, right? It's a major highway.
Mhm.
He's heading, onto the highway. I'm running to keep up, but I know I can't keep up. There's no way. And I could probably pull my arm out, but if I do, I'm going to fall, and I'm going to get run over by his back tires. So in my mind, the best thing to do was, I dove into the car, right? So now I'm in the car. I'm on his lap. I'm facing him really, but my legs are dangling out, just below my waist. Probably right below my pocket line. On my shorts, right? And I look, over my shoulder, and he's already crossing into the middle lane, and he's going to the fast lane. And I'm thinking like he's gonna crush me against that divider, and just keep going, just throw me off the car and keep going. So I hear this like like a roar, like a train inside my head, right? Um, you know, shoot him now, bang, right? And next thing I know, I'm just tumbling down the highway, right? And like when stuff like that happens, like I I don't know what it's called, but like time slows down in your
Yep.
mind, right?
Yep.
I call it slow time, right? I don't know what else to call it.
Sure.
Um,
I
so
I'm pretty sure a good number of our listeners are probably familiar with what you're talking about, probably experienced something similar to that, and yeah,
yeah, it's
everything
weird.
slows down.
Yeah,
I don't know how to describe it either.
yeah, like you can think so much so fast because it's only a fraction. It's not even like and I'm thinking, and I think, am I ever going to stop tumbling? Because I'm like going like weird tumbling, like feet over back. I don't know, just some because I must have got thrown out around 40 miles an hour. So and I'm going down right, and I finally come to a stop, and so and I'm looking down, and I'm on my knees, and I'm on all fours, like really, and I still have my weapon in my hand, which I to this day I like always pat myself on my back for that. So
You never let go of that weapon, right? You don't
yeah,
ever
right.
wanna go. That's like that's training 101. You'd never let
Yeah.
go.
But the funny thing is though, like, I don't remember pulling it out of my holster.
Okay.
I don't remember any of it. All I remember is hearing that, shoot him now, then bang, right?
And so you did end up shooting him then at that point,
Yes,
right? Yeah.
yeah. So, I look up and man, I'm in a fast lane. I got a tractor trailer bearing down on me, right? And again, it goes into that like, that moment of like that slow time. And I actually, because it's comical at this point. I'm thinking to myself, like, is a piano going to fall out of the sky now and hit me in the head? You know what I
An
mean? Like,
anvil
what
or
the
something?
hell? Right. So, and I didn't even think to move because it just, it was so close, in my mind, the way I looked at it, the thought to move never even occurred to me.
Mhm.
But I just get yanked out of the way, like, and it goes by me, right? Right? And it's my partner. He had shown up I didn't see him show up. And so just as the guy started taking me for the ride onto the highway, he came around. And so he just, came along with it and he yanked me out of the way and, pulled me to the side, the shoulder. And he's like, because he heard the shot, but he didn't know like if I shot
Mhm.
or if the driver shot, he had no idea. So he's like, "Oh man, are you all right?" And I'm like, you know, I I I, I want to say it, because it I don't want it to take away from the scene, right? But so I'm gonna have to swear if you don't mind.
Yeah, no, go
You know what I
for it.
mean?
Yeah.
So
We
I say to him, like, you know, he's like, "Are you all right?" I'm like, "Go get that motherfucker," right? And he laughs to this day. He says, you know, 'cause he always makes fun of me about it. He said, I was so mad that I looked like a baby who was constipated trying to go to the bathroom. Like my head was so red, like, you know, every time he says every time he sees me. So, he jumps in his truck. He's got a Ford Explorer and he go this because the guy kept going. He didn't stop. Right.
okay.
And so he chases him around and I get up and I'm bleeding. I got road rash all over me, I have a concussion. Yeah, I'm limping, right? And my core is probably about 50 yards, 450 yards up the shoulder, right? So I'm walking to my vehicle and I'm not aware of my surroundings. I have total tunnel vision, right? Because
Mhm.
I'm so mad, right? I think I'm more embarrassed than mad, okay? Because in my mind, I'm thinking, how could I have missed this guy?
Yeah.
I don't understand it, like it doesn't make any sense to me. How did this guy keep going? Right. So I mean, it sounds crazy, but I'm thinking, oh, I'm never going to hear the end of it. You know what I mean? Like
Right, right.
that's weird crap you think, I guess, when you have a concussion. I don't know. So I'm limping up the road and I'm going towards my car because I'm like, I got to get on this pursuit, um, because I don't want, again, and, you know, it's like Now my partner, Big Lenny, right? He's now on the pursuit with this guy, right? So I don't want to leave him hanging, right?
Sure.
So I want to get in my car and get on that pursuit, right? And so I'm walking towards my car, and I'm not aware of what's going on around me. Other group members had shown up, right? And they stopped traffic because it's a crime scene now, right? So I'm not aware of this, and I'm limping to my car, and I get close to my car, and I say out loud, pretty loud enough for people to hear me, and I say, "I'm gonna kill that motherfucker," and because but I look, and oh boy, I look, and I see all the cars stop, right, and the highway. There's a car like 2 feet from me, right, and the windows are rolled down. It's like a typical family, right? Father, mother, right? 2 kids in the back seat, and the woman in the passenger side, our eyes lock, and she's terrified, man. Like her eyes are like giant, and it it snaps me right back to reality. Like she's terrified of me, right?
Right.
All she my badge had got ripped off me, right?
Oh,
So right, so all she sees is just some bald lunatic walking up the shoulder, bleeding, talking to myself with a gun in my hand, right?
right.
So
You didn't even holster your gun at that point, right?
right, I still have my gun in my hand, right? So,
She's like, "Get me the fuck out of here."
you know what I'm saying, right? Like, so, but it snaps me right back, and,
Yeah.
I quickly holster my weapon, and I jump in my car, and I take off, right? And so they had gone lower level of the bridge, and I went upper level, right? Because I'm not hearing the radio. I'm, everything going on, and
Mhm.
I don't hear any of it because I'm so
Yeah.
hyper focused right now. And so I'm driving. I'm on the Henry Hudson Parkway. I can't figure out where is everybody, And I finally get a call from my chief, and he's like, "Hey, man, like, where are you?" I'm like, "I don't know." I said, "I'm on Henry Hudson Parkway somewhere." He's like, "All right, you need to come back." I'm like, "Okay, all right." I said, "Well, but where's everybody? Where's the pursuit?" He's like, "No, just come back. It's all right." Lenny got the guy. Okay. So what had happened was Lenny chased him, but now another group member had caught up, and they chased this guy to the lower level of the bridge right before like the toll booth area and stuff. Right there's whatever, um, and Big Lenny ended up ramming him with his
Mhm.
truck because he wouldn't stop, and so they're ordering the guy out of the car, right? Get out of the car, get out of the car. And I didn't see this. They told me this. They couldn't see inside the car because there was so much blood on the windows, right? So they're like, you know, the car door opens and closes, and then it opens again and closes, and they don't know what this guy's preparing to do here, and so they're about to light the car up, and but the door opens finally, and the guy slumps out. What had happened was he had lost so much blood that he couldn't undo his seatbelt,
Oh,
right? So imagine, right? Oh, that'd have been, forget about it. So he slumps out, and they go to work. They save this guy's life because what had happened was I gave him like a contact wound, almost, really, like it was so close to him and this guy was really big. He was like heavy, right?
sure.
So it went into like the meaty part of his chest, and it went through, and it lodged in his elbow. It
Okay.
was a 40 cal, it was a
Yep.
Glock. I don't even know the number, but it was 40 cal. So it lodged in his elbow, and so he was bleeding all over the place. So they saved his life. He lived, and they charged him with attempted murder of police officer, $2 million bail, and um, he ended up getting a lawyer. He gave a statement. He admitted to everything.
Mhm.
He was going to crush me against the divider. He thought that we knew everything, and we were coming just to arrest everybody and the whole 9 yards. And that's why we don't make stops like that, right?
Right.
That's the exact reason why, right?
That should be
So,
textbook, reason why not to,
yeah, exactly. So, you know, he sued me for 25 million. He sued the DEA, my department, like, just ridiculous stuff.
Mhm.
He said that, at first he said that he thought I was carjacking him. Okay. But then, once the lawyer found out that we found his driver's license on the highway, that wasn't going to work, so then it
Right.
was that I walked up to the car and shot him, right? That's ridiculous. I didn't
Mhm.
do that. Um, and the whole thing was, they ended up cutting him a deal, right? Behind my back, you know, the feds are good like that. They tend to panic and whatever. And so they give him lifetime probation. Okay. Um, which is not even a thing. Okay.
Right.
Who's going to monitor him? He lives in Virginia. You know what I mean? Like, that's not going to work. Right. And that's how you lifetime probation.
Right.
That's unheard of. So whatever. It was just just to make it go away. They just wanted it to go away because they didn't want the bad publicity, and it was that year was a bad year. There was a lot of shootings and there was a lot of Sharpton activity and things were just crazy, right? So I kind of understand, whatever. Um, there's a whole hospital story that, if we can take a little side detour, it's kind of funny actually.
Sure. Sure.
Um,
Like to add a little
so
humor.
yeah, right. So we get back, I get back to the scene finally, and I hand my weapon over to my chief. He's there, and they order me and Big Lenny to the hospital. We get there, and that's when all the fun starts, right? So we're walking into the emergency room, and there's this guy in this like really really nice suit, right? And that's what I noticed, right? Yeah, wow, really nice suit this guy's wearing, right? So and he stops. He says, "Hey, are you Gary Pacelli?" I'm like, "Yeah, who are you?" Because at this point, like I'm paranoid. Everybody is out to get me at this
Yeah.
point.
Right.
Um, because I could either be a hero or go to jail for 20 years. You know what I mean? Like, you don't know.
Right.
And even though it's a good shoot, it doesn't matter. It all
Mhm.
depends on, because it's playing on the news like already. By the time I get to the hospital, it's already on the news, right? Because Route 4 is shut down.
Yeah.
That's a major,
Yeah.
highway,
That's messing up a lot of people's days.
oh yeah.
Not just the
It was
family that
closed.
you terrorize.
Exactly. Right. It was shut down for like, 6 hours. Oh, it's horrible. Um, so, and again, the news, it's playing on the news constantly, right? And so, um, internal affairs shows up, and I'm right off the bat, like I'm like, oh, already? Like I
Yeah.
mean, I'm not even. They're like, no, no, it's not like that. We're here, on orders from the sheriff, so nobody talks to you. I'm like, all right. Because Bergen County was there, their homicide unit was there, and they want a statement already. My lawyer's not going to allow that. So they're fighting in a hallway, and it's turned into a nightmare. And you know, I'm sitting in a room with my partner at the time, Big Lay. We call him that for a reason. The guy's like he was a bodybuilder, right? A
Okay.
competition bodybuilder, right? Gigantic, and like one of the toughest guys I ever met. One of the, and he's like one of the best cops I've ever met.
Sure.
Street smart, book smart, he kind of taught me everything when it came to like high level narcotics, right? And I'm talking to him like I'm talking to you, right? And then all of a sudden, the nurse walks in, and everything changes, right? And he goes, "Oh, I can't breathe. You got to give me something," right? And I'm looking at him, right? And so the nurse is like, "Oh yeah, you're really stressed out. I'll get you something." And he goes, "Yeah, and you got to get him something too." He hit his head. He doesn't know what he's talking about. So the nurse goes, "Okay, okay, I'll get some for both of you." So she leaves, and I'm like, "What the hell's that? I'm not taking anything. What's wrong with you?" And he's like, "Listen, you idiot. If you take something, you can't give a statement." I'm like, "Oh, all right." Like, you know, I didn't know that. You know what I mean? Like, it was the first time I was ever in a shooting, right?
Right.
So she gives us some like Xanax, whatever, and no big deal, right? And so, but it's building, and it won't stop, right? Like now the sheriff's there, and uh, the DEA had sent a member of their shoot team. Whenever there's a shooting, they send out a representative to handle, like whatever. I don't even know what. All he did was bring sandwiches. I don't know what else he did, but you know, um, so and in the news is right, the same thing. And I'm like, oh man, and I said, oh man, Lenny, we're screwed, And he's like, no, 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 you're screwed. I'm like, oh, thanks, right? So like right in the middle of the news though, and I have the video that it plays, and it says right at the end, it says, waiting on an update on the Kobe Bryant situation, right? So the next time it plays, probably about a half hour later, it's again the same news. They break right in.
Yeah.
Breaking news: Kobe Bryant just charged with rape. Everybody out in the hallways clapping, they're cheering because it wiped it right off. They never reported on me again. It was done.
It
It was
just
over.
eliminated that
And
big story, just took everything from
took
you
it,
off the thing. So,
took sucked all the wind out of the sails, and I was like so happy, right?
uh,
And so I got released, and went home, and I felt okay. I knew I was injured,
yeah.
um, but it wasn't anything until the adrenaline wore off,
Yeah,
right?
I was gonna
And
say, you're probably still, like, super pumped
yeah,
with
I was
adrenaline.
pumped up,
Yeah.
man. And so about a week later, I just, it was like I couldn't get out of bed. Like my whole body like twisted up, right? So I ended up having 11 surgeries, right?
Wow.
And so they ended up retiring me, medically retiring me, and they were good, like they gave me like the two highest medals in law enforcement,
Wow.
for my department anyway. It was the Legion of Honor and the Combat Cross, right? And they gave me at like the Christmas party, right? And it's like a big deal. And then it's almost like then like they pull the lever and you shoot right out the chute and you're gone, you know, just
Yep.
gone.
Yep.
Like you were never even there. And
Just
that's what it felt like.
Yeah, just
Honestly.
real quick, I wanna just kinda chime in a little bit about that because I know, like, the majority of the listeners here, they're kinda military related, but there's a lot of similarities between, law enforcement, military, and to your guys' credit, like, when we go into combat, we know we're going into combat
Right,
because we're in, Iraq, Afghanistan, wherever we end up, and,
right.
we're geared up, we got, we got grenades, we got machine guns,
Yeah,
we got body
air
armor,
support.
we're air
Right,
support, we're good to go. We know what we're getting into. You were there in shorts and a t-shirt with a pistol, and you're
right,
essentially in a combat situation where your life is on the line, right? And someone's literally trying to kill you. However, whatever their means of trying to kill you, whether it's, scraping you up against a, median barrier or whatever,
right.
um, at the end of the day,
Oh,
it's still trying to kill you, right? And
yeah,
so,
right.
like, you guys deal with that every day, and you never know when, like, you're literally gearing up for combat every day, but you're out there in shorts and a t-shirt. So I don't know if you guys are nuts or what, but but yeah, I mean, that mindset is just there, and it's similar. There's a lot of similarities there. But to what you were just about, you were just saying, when you got out, when you retired and everything, it's like a light switch goes off, and you're one day it's on, one day it's off, and
Yeah, it's like
um, now who are you when you get out,
yeah,
right?
exactly. Right? You go from 100 miles an hour
Yeah,
to 0.
yeah,
Like, just like you boom, you hit that wall. And, to what you were saying though, like you're absolutely right. But like you would think that my job, would be more dangerous, right? Than the guy on patrol, right?
hmm
Just driving around a patrol car. But it's the opposite because like usually, unless you have some supervisor who's an idiot and makes a decision to do what happened with me. Usually, when we take down like a wiretap or we have, we're gonna lock somebody up. We got air support, we got uh, undercover cars, we got SWAT teams. You know, it's pretty safe.
hmm
But the guy on patrol, just in uniform, and the big city guys, yeah, it's more dangerous, but they expect it,
right,
right? Now you get a local guy out in a rural town. He's not expecting that, right?
right.
Like they haven't, like what are they really doing? And all of a sudden, when it goes bad fast.
hmm
So that's the guy that's the most dangerous job. That's my opinion, anyway.
Sure, sure.
So, but so you go to 0, and I was getting operated on like every 4 to 6 months, right? So I couldn't get anything going, right? Like because every time I started to get into something, I had another operation, right?
hmm
And So I ended up having like 6 rotator cuff surgeries, right, on my left shoulder. And then the 7th one, they replaced the shoulder, right?
Okay.
And then they had to go back in because they thought I was infected. So they had to go back in. And then my deltoid muscle snapped from all the surgeries, right? So, and it kind of balled up down here. They had to fish that up and tie that back up. And then a wrist surgery. Then I had 2 spine surgeries, put cages in my spine, right?
Hmm.
So, this went on for like 4.5 years, Um, a couple times I went back to work at the police academy, again, but I always have to leave because I had a surgery. Something
Yeah.
came up. So, y- you know, I don't want to make excuses, and I'm not one to make excuses, but when you're in that situation and you start to lose touch with like your family, right? That you worked with, right? Like I spend more time with these guys than my wife, you know,
Yeah. Right.
and I'm still very close to them to this day, but you don't fit in anymore because you're not a participant anymore. You're a spectator, right?
Hmm.
So you feel out of place, right? So you kind of withdraw yourself, right?
Yeah.
Because you're not involved in the stories no more, and you just don't feel
You don't fit in. Or you don't
don't
feel
fit
like
in,
you fit in, anyways, right? You,
right?
you might be able to reminisce with some of the old times and that kind of stuff, but
Right,
there's new stuff going on, and that's
right.
fresh in their mind too, right?
And there's new guys, right?
Yep.
There's new
Yep.
members of the squad, right? So you just and they look at you like, who's this guy?
Yeah.
Like so um and so for me it was like you know, I left myself in this like haze of like self-pity and pain pills, you know. I'm sitting because like again, you're getting operated on and you know, going down a bad road, man.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I put on like 100 pounds. I was always in really good shape, man. I was solid. I had to be because, I'm only 5'6", and these guys are giants out there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
they would always make fun of me, like, because I'm short. And I'm like, no, you're just a freak of nature, like 6'4". What are you kidding me? Right. So, but and that's what I was dealing with. So and of course, whenever we go out and, you know, whenever like the suspect or whatever, like they want to fight somebody, of course they want to fight me.
Yeah.
They're not going to go after Big Lenny. I mean, his neck was the size of my waist. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like, so it was always me. So, it's funny because they ended up nicknaming me, and it's on my helmet now for skydive, Min Diesel, right?
Mindy.
And yeah, because they said I looked like Vin Diesel, but so I'm short, so but instead of the Fast and Furious, they called me the Short and Furious. It was pretty funny, but anyway, so I lost myself and I gained 100 pounds, and I remember looking at a picture of me and my family from my niece's high school graduation party, right? And no matter how long I stare at that picture, I couldn't recognize myself.
Mhm.
You know, I just couldn't see myself in that person, and I was embarrassed, disgusted, just like no way, and but it woke me up, man, and like from that moment, that was it. Like I went on a mission,
Yeah.
and I said, I'm getting my life back. I don't care, and it took probably like 3 years, but I lost weight, I got back in shape. Yeah, I was feeling pretty good, I was looking pretty good, and but I was still missing something.
Is that
And
is
it
that what
was
what drove you to or drew you to, skydiving? Is that where you ended up?
yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
because I did a skydive, when I got out of boot camp, you know, I said, me and my buddy were like, "Hey, let's go for a skydive, whatever." And it was like a tandem jump,
Mhm.
and we are like 3,000 feet. It was great though, like little Cessna. You put your foot on the step and you hold on to the strut of the plane, right?
Yeah.
And just let go, and it pulls your chute out for you. It was just, I loved it, And I said back then I was going to get my license, but I never did. Life happens, whatever. But this time I said, no, I'm going for it, and I did. And it was in 2019, and I got my license at the end of the season, like it was October of 2019, and so I had 27 jumps at the end of that season, right? And it takes 25 jumps to get your license.
Okay.
So, I had 27, and then 2020 rolled around, and, man, I went nuts. I went up and down the East Coast, right? I hit 11, skydive centers, right? And, we call them drop zones.
Sure.
So I hit 11 drop zones, and, I did over 300 jumps that year, right? I was just going, me and a jump buddy of mine, he's an iron worker in New York City. And, we just, it was great. It was like one of the best years of my life, because it had a lot of the stuff that I was missing from law enforcement, right? That camaraderie, because every time you jump out of the plane, it's pretty safe, but you're still saving your life, you're
Right.
pulling that, you're deploying your canopy, if you don't do it, no one else is going to do it for you. You know, we have the unit that goes in your rig that if you're going a certain speed at a certain altitude, it'll blow your reserve, right?
Okay.
It'll pop. Okay. So if you're knocked unconscious and you're just falling and you get to mine was set for 750 feet. If I get to 750 feet and I'm not slowing down, ow, it just blows it out. Right. So, but you're obviously not going to do that. Right. So
Right.
you're pulling your own parachute and, you got your own equipment, yeah, you maintain, right. And it's constant training, and, which I love, cause it's one of those things that you're never going to master it. It's like golf, right? I don't play golf, but that's what they tell me. Right.
Right.
So,
Well,
but,
and you can never be too good at keeping yourself safe or saving your life,
exactly.
right? Like
Right.
there's never,
Right.
oh, I'm the top at keeping myself, from
Right.
hurtling to the ground or whatever.
Right. Yeah. So, and the adrenaline though, right?
Yeah.
Because that's a big part of it, right?
Sure.
When you're in law enforcement, especially the level that I was working at, we had a long leash, you know, and, because at the end of the day, your bosses, all they want to do is they want to take pictures of, drugs and money stacked on the table, right?
Right.
All they care about, they get there, they show up, blah, 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 and as long as you're doing that, they're going to leave you alone. They don't want to know how you did. Just go, do, just, call me when it's time for the pictures. Right.
Yeah.
And, we loved their job. So we kept, they were happy. Right. But,
Mhm.
so you had a long leash. Nobody was, there's no such thing as being late for work. You know what I mean? Like, they're like, what are you talking about? There was nobody on you like that. It was just, hey, they trusted us. We're adults,
Right.
that's how it should be really. Right.
Mhm.
So, with skydiving, it's just it was just, it filled everything. Like it just checked all the boxes off, and it's pretty cool too, though. You know what I mean? Like it's, like even I could go to the drop zone and not jump all day. And I have the time of my life watching the planes, watching them jump. You know what I mean? It's just,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love it, So to me, it was, I was in heaven. Right. And, so 2021 rolled around and COVID, right?
Mhm.
COVID was there. So everything was weird, everything, and we made believe like that wasn't going on, but it was there wherever you went,
Right.
like you had maniacs yelling at you, cause most places you go, like you have to wear the gaiter, right?
Mhm.
But I got a full face helmet, you know what I mean? Like, so, I got some maniac yelling at me because my gaiter under my helmet maybe slipped below my nose,
Yeah.
like, all right, come on, pal. They're never being a little ridiculous, right? But
Sure. Sure.
but that's how it was everywhere,
Everywhere was crazy like that. Yeah. Yeah.
And look, hey, if you want to jump, that's the rules. You got to do what you're not going
Sure.
to argue with them, right? You're not going to get anywhere. They just throw you off the plane.
Right.
So, um, but whatever, we got by. But the weather was horrible. Again, I live in Hudson Valley, New York, right? So I'm like, it's Northwest, uh, like New York, right? It's right on the border of Pennsylvania and Jersey, right up there. So we couldn't get good weather. And I was looking at North Carolina, the weather was going to be fantastic. Like the first weekend in March, that North Carolina was having good weather. So, and I had started wingsuiting, um, right at the end of the last season, right? So I was dying to get back up in the air and go do it, right? So then I said to my wife, "Hey, look, I'm going to run down to North Carolina for a couple days, just to, she's a school teacher up here, third grade. She doesn't like me skydiving, but she knows how much happier I am,
Hmm.
when I'm occupying myself like that, So, she was cool with it. So I went down there and I got there on a Monday, right? And there was nobody there, it was just me, and so, and I'm considered a fun jumper, right?
Okay.
Because I'm not in the military. I'm not an instructor or a student. So I'm just a licensed skydiver that jumps for fun. So I show up at this drop zone. It's right outside of Fort Bragg, and it's a Monday. And again, no one, there's no fun jumpers, right? So I've never been there before. Uh, Beautiful place. And I walked into a hangar that I thought was for fun jumpers, and I dropped my gear, and I just look up. There's a bunch of guys looking at me, right? And I look, hey, how's it going? So it turns out these guys are stationed in Fort Bragg, and they had a plane chartered for the day, to train for whatever. Like I didn't ask them what they did. You know, we started talking. I told them who I was, retired detective. And I was, Marine Corps Reserve, whatever. And they were really cool, and they were like, hey, listen, you want to jump on our plane? We got plenty of room. I was like, yeah, hell yeah. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, absolutely. That's fantastic. So, they just want to know what I was going to be doing and whatever. And I told them, and what I was going to be doing was practicing my wingsuit pattern, um, for the next day, because I have never been there and I didn't know the layout of the area. And I wanted to get some key like landmarks because when you're in a wingsuit, you can get carried away and you can end up going out too far and not being able to make it back,
Got
and
it.
then you got to land out. And that's a nightmare. And it raises your risk of getting hurt.
Hmm.
So I just wanted to get everything squared away. So, skydiving, like a lot of people who don't skydive, they think that like you jump out of the plane and you put your parachute and you float straight down, right? That's what they think. And it's not the case. They let you first of all, they let you out where where the wind will push you towards the landing zone
Sure.
because they don't want to let you out, over the wind line because you'll never make it back.
Right.
So, um, so there's different forms of skydiving. There's like, the belly position where you do come straight down, right? And you're on your belly, right? You see,
Hmm.
the classic skydive position. Then you have the free flyers that do all kinds of crazy stuff, and I'm not that limber. I can't do that stuff. Then you have like your trackers, right? And that's where I specialize in because my body's so fused and wired together that I'm so stiff. Like I can't arch my back, right? For like belly position.
Sure.
But for tracking, it puts me in the perfect, I'm like a lawn dart.
Okay.
And so what it is like you're still falling obviously down, but you're on an angle. So the wind is, as you're falling, the wind's pushing you. Okay.
Okay. And so you're kind of head
And
first going down, kind of at an
yeah,
angle
not
like that.
steep, like just
Yeah.
enough where you're falling and the wind's pushing you. Right.
Right.
So, and, um, if you're in the right position, you can go pretty fast and pretty far.
Hmm.
Uh, it's like wingsuiting without a wingsuit or like body surfing. Right.
Okay.
So, and I'm really good at it. I got really good at it. So, I was able to do my wingsuit pattern, and hold that position long enough to, to get a good pattern going. Right. So it worked out great. I got out last. I gave them plenty of time, because it didn't matter to me. I could wait 30 seconds and then jump out of the plane,
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
because I just pulled a little higher, pull my
Hmm.
parachute a little higher. It's not a big deal. So, and 6 jumps that day with them. Perfect. Fantastic day. And I got there the next day and now there's people, it's a normal day. I don't know why, but there's fun jumpers there. And then the military guys are now intermingled with, they're on the plane, they're getting out first, then the rest of the fun jumpers are behind them. Right.
Okay.
So, but I'm uneasy. Second I get there, man, I got that feeling again, right?
The same kind of
That,
feeling that you had that the
yeah,
last time that you're talking about, right? Okay.
exactly, right? And it's like, and I can't figure out why, man. And I'm like, you know, now my wingsuit was a rental wingsuit, because you don't buy a wingsuit until you get like really good, because
Mhm.
every suit's got a different level to it.
Okay.
So I'm in the beginner level, and I had to turn in the suit that I had been jumping because they needed it for a student. So they gave me the next level up. No big deal, just a little faster, the
Okay.
suit, but it didn't fit right. It was too
Mhm.
tight in the shoulders and the arms, and it was too short, right? But I was at that number, that jump number, 338, right? Where it seems like a lot of jumps, but it's really not, because you got guys with thousands and thousands of jumps,
Okay.
you know. But it's you have enough skill and knowledge to really mess things up, you know. Um, and and if you're not aware of that, you're gonna do something stupid, and that's where I was in my jumping, skill and whatever. But um, so I suited up anyway, because I always, like the bad attitude wasn't a bad attitude, but the wrong way of thinking I had was, hey, I got a reserve parachute, so what could go wrong, right? That's what I thought. Well,
Right.
okay, whatever, what could go wrong? I just cut it away and go to my reserve, right? Okay, well, that usually works, but not always.
Right.
So I get on a plane first because I'm getting out last, and the whole ride up, 15 minutes, I'm just like fidgety, the suit doesn't fit right, and now I start to hear that inner voice, the whatever, like some people call it like your training, right? Or the universe. I call it God. Okay,
Okay. Yeah.
so whatever you call it, doesn't matter. You shouldn't ignore it.
No.
That's the thing, right?
Yeah, that
But we
voice is
usually,
important.
yeah, but but we usually ignore it because we think of it as fear, right?
Mhm.
I did anyway, right? So like, and I, I'm like, nah, I don't want to be a coward, like whatever, it's it's just my nerves, right?
Yeah,
Whatever.
yeah.
So I ignored it, right? Because of like my pride or arrogance, whatever, however you want to look at it. I shoved that thing down deep, right? And you know, the light turns red, and the first jumper opens the door, and he sets up, and the door turns green, boom, he's out. And then every 8 seconds, somebody's going, and I slide down the bench, and the voices is saying, don't jump, ride the plane down, don't jump. Nope. My turn. I get up, I exit. Okay. And I go right into my wingsuit pattern, and it's going great. Right.
Yeah.
But again, the suit's too short. So I'm on a steeper head down angle because it's pulling me down. Right.
Oh, okay.
So now I'm going super fast. Right. I'm going much faster than normal, but I have it under control. And so, my altimeter on my helmet starts to beep. Right. And, it's time to slow down and, deploy your canopy. So I say, slow down. I reach back. I deploy my canopy. And the second I let it go, right, I think to myself, you didn't slow down enough. And pow, it hits like the wind, man, and it just opens fully. And like our chutes are designed to open slowly,
Okay.
right? For this reason, because it's it snaps my head back, right? And I hear this loud crunch, right, of my neck breaking.
Oh, no. Wow.
I hear it, right? And it's like, and then it's like somebody turned the switch off, and I get this electrical charge goes right down my body. And
Mhm.
as it goes down my body goes limp, like just like, and I think to myself, like, no way, like this did not just happen. Like, no way, can't be.
Yeah.
So I'm like, all right, just give it a couple seconds. The feeling and the movement, it'll come back, right? So I give it like 10 seconds, and it doesn't come back, right? So I'm a mile high and I can't move. So I can't reach my toggles now. So I can't steer, right? Or
Oh,
or
yeah.
or slow down, when I go to land. And the only thing I could move was my head, and I had a little movement in my left hand. And holy, like all I see, it's North Carolina, man. It's all pine trees, right?
Right, right.
And all I see is like just trees, man. So it's like everything happens fast, right? Like so I automatically I accepted my fate, right? Because okay, what am I gonna do? I can't do anything. I'm gonna die, right? I know I'm gonna die. I got 5 minutes to think about it because that's how long it's gonna take for me to hit the ground. 5 minutes. So, they say like your life flashes before your eyes, right? And because it's true, right? You think of everything, right? I think of my wife, my kids, my dogs, right? And I feel like a speck of dust, man,
Mhm.
tiny, and here's the thing, like it's a very humbling experience, right? Whatever ego you have or had, it rips it right out of you. I don't care if you're the richest guy in the world, the toughest, the best look. Doesn't You're still gonna die in 5 minutes. It does not matter, right?
Right.
And that's boom, right? And so to sum up how I felt was like just like this soul crushing sadness, man. Like because it's like I thought about it, like the world's gonna keep turning,
Mhm.
right? I'm just not gonna be here, so nothing's really gonna change. It's almost as if I was never here, right? And man, that's a hard thing to you know to y- like register in your brain, right?
Sure.
And but that happens really fast though. But then like I don't know, like I I don't know what it's called again, but I call it the fire of your soul, right? And like starts out like a little birthday candle, deep inside of you, this little fire, man. And like so sadness like turns to like anger. And as that flame grows, anger like turns to fury, right? And I'm like, I was really mad, right? And you know, and I said to myself, like, you know what? I'm gonna die, um, but I'm gonna die fighting, right? I'm gonna die like a warrior with my sword in my hand. I'm not just gonna take this last glorious ride out, right?
Yeah,
And
right.
then just see where I end up. No way. No, you know? And so I think to myself, all right, well, what can I do? Like I can't move. I know that. So, but what the hell am I gonna do? And so I realized though that like so my planning, and I do this on every single jump. I don't care what it is, I don't care what kind of jump I'm doing. I always plan my opening where when I open my canopy, I know the wind is going to be at my back and it's going to push me towards the drop zone, right? So I knew, and that's just in case like I have a bad canopy, right?
Yeah.
I open up my canopy and it's messed up and I got to cut it away. At least I know that the winds are going to float that canopy towards the drop zone, and I'll probably be able to find it. You know what I
Sure.
mean? That's 3 grand. I don't want to lose
Yeah.
that. So
It's practical, right?
exactly, right? So, and it just makes good sense too.
Yeah,
Like
sure.
so I knew that the winds are going to float me to the drop zone. But if I didn't do anything, I was just going to float right past it and end up in the trees, right?
Oh, yeah.
I was too high. So I had to burn off the altitude, right? So probably about 50 jumps earlier, I had learned how to steer my canopy with my body weight. Okay. And, you know, the smaller your canopy, the better it works. And I had a decent sized canopy at the time, but that's all I had. Right. So I was going to try it. And I ended up being able to make these wide 360-degree turns. So it seemed to be working, right? I was staying within the area of the drop zone. And again, I knew that I knew I wasn't gonna live. I knew I was gonna die, right? So I just wanted to die close to the drop zone so they could find my body, right? And because I had this like crazy fear, right? That like I was gonna get caught up in a tree, hung up in a tree, and no one being able to find me, right? And then like the birds and squirrels like would peck at me,
Mhm.
get inside my suit, right, and eat me alive, right? I know it sounds irrational, man, but you're not dealing with like rational thoughts at this point.
You had 5 minutes to kill, and those thoughts just creep in, right?
Oh man, yeah, right. Because like, and 5 minutes can be like a long time,
Oh
or
my
it can be a
gosh.
flash too, though, right?
Yeah.
Because like, you start thinking about every way you're going to die. Am
Yep.
I going to get impaled by a tree, drown in a lake,
Yep.
hit by a truck on a highway? On and on, right?
Hmm.
You die like 1,000 different ways. But it's so flash though when you think like, man, 5 minutes, I'm done.
Right. Right.
So you're dealing with that too, and the reason why I was adamant that I wasn't going to survive was because, like, so what happened to me was like, you know, I broke my neck, but it was like me hanging myself a mile high in the sky,
Yeah.
right? I probably shouldn't have even survived that, right? But I did. And my canopy flies at 27 to 30 miles per hour. Okay. Now, if you put a 5 to 10 mile an hour wind at your back, I'm going to hit the ground between 30 and 40 miles per hour with a broken neck.
Right.
So I'm like, there's no way I'm going to survive that, right? So the whole thing was like just so they could find my body, right?
Hmm.
And then of course I hear I laugh, I can laugh about this stuff now, but I hear the voice again, right? But it's the other voice, and this voice is saying to me, like, ditch it into the trees, get it over with. Because if you live, you're still paralyzed. That's not living, like your wife and family, they don't deserve that, so just get it over with. But again, like I thought to myself, that's not a bad idea, but the crash landing is going to kill me anyway. I don't need to rush it, you know?
Hmm.
So I just
Enjoy the
doing my
ride.
thing. Exactly. Right. With whatever chance there is, who knows what's going to happen. Right.
Yeah.
And so I'm doing my thing and I'm staying disciplined, and which is really good though, that I have something for my mind to occupy itself with. Otherwise, your thoughts are going to go, just places you don't want to go.
Yep.
Right. So I'm doing my thing, and my altimeter, my helmet is set to beep for a landing pattern, to set up for a landing pattern. Because we land like a plane, right? We,
Mhm.
we land into the wind. So we have like a 3-leg pattern, right? So mine's set for 1,200 feet, 600 feet, and like 300 feet. So, 1,200 feet, right? 3 beeps. Okay. So I'm crossing the runway. I'm already overshooting the drop zone. Like, oh man. And I'm heading right for the trees. But I think, listen, like I'm right above the drop zone. Somebody has to see me right now. So at least they're going to be able to find me, right? That's what I'm thinking. Then 2 beeps, 600 feet. Everything's getting bigger, right? The ground, it's coming, man, and I can't stop it. Nothing I can do. And but weird thing happens. I catch this gust of wind, and it turns me. Okay, but I already have the wind at my back, so I have now another uh, gust that's turning me. It's about 120-degree turn, and it's actually turning me into the wind. Okay, now if you think about that, I have a wind at my back, and I'm turning into the wind, so I'm going to have a tailwind and a headwind. That's almost like unheard of,
Right.
unless you have a tornado, right?
Right.
You know, um, I mean, I guess it's possible. I see dirt devils all over the place, right? So but whatever. I think it's for another reason. But hey,
Sure.
I'll take it, right?
Right. Right.
So, but the way it turned me, I now can see where I'm gonna. Pretty good idea where I'm gonna land, right? And it's in somebody's backyard, directly across the street from the drop zone, right?
Okay.
But there's a chain link fence, and I can't lift my legs, and I don't know if I'm going to clear it, right? And like 30 feet to the left is an above ground pool,
Oh
right?
shit.
So, if I hit that, I'm going to drown, right?
Yeah.
I'll take the fence, right? So, um, you know, last beep, 300 feet. Now I know that because all my other jumps, I know it's like 25, 30 seconds, you're going to hit the ground. So I'm going to die in 30 seconds. And, there's no such thing as a fox, an atheist in a foxhole. Always heard that saying, right?
Right.
I understand it now, because, I, this thought really loud. I didn't say it, but I thought it really loud in my head, and I said, Jesus, please save me. Right now, I'm not a religious guy. I don't go to church. I don't, I always believed in God, and I always just try to do the right thing, just like a normal, decent human being, whatever. So as soon as I think that, pow, I hit that fence, right? And right below my knee, like midway on my shin level, right?
Hmm.
And it flips me over and I smack into the ground. And I have this really, really tinted visor, right? And you can see it up in that picture behind me,
Yeah,
right?
sure.
It's really dark. But now I'm face down in the ground. And so all I see is like just darkness, right? And it's so silent, man. Like there's not a sound, you know? And I think like to myself, like, am I dead? Right? You know, it's funny, right? I mean, I don't know. I think it's funny. And because I don't know. I mean, I really don't know. And so I'm like, oh, let me try to move, you know, because I figured, hey, if I'm dead and I'm conscious, maybe I can move. Well, I can't move. So I'm like, oh man, I'm alive. And now I'm in big trouble because I didn't think it through, you know. I
You
I
stopped
didn't
at
want to
I'm
survive
dead.
this.
You didn't think like, what if I don't die? Right?
Yeah. Right. So which is a good thing because I don't want to survive this. There's no way. I don't want to even think about living my life as a quadriplegic, right? I mean, because that takes a level of strength. Okay. Um, now, you know, I also want to say though, like none of us think we have that level of strength, right? And you know, when people say to me about they hear my story and they say, "Wow, man, like what you did was incredible." My response is that you know when you have no choice, you will do incredible things. You know, things that you wouldn't normally think you could do,
Yeah.
but you'll do it.
Sure.
It'll happen. You know, nothing special about me, man. You know, so So now here I am because I feel like I feel like my body's a coffin and I'm locked inside of it, right? And I'm like really tiny inside my own body, man. And it's like, oh man, this sucks, right? This is bad. So the military guys I had jumped with the day before, they knew exactly where I was supposed to be, right? Because
Hmm.
the winds were the same, everything was the same. So they looked up because you know I'm not where I'm supposed to be.
Yeah.
So they looked up with binoculars and they saw my arms were dangling. And they got into a truck and they followed me. And when I hit the ground, they were there within a minute, right?
Okay.
And so man, they were trained. I'll tell you that. So you know, because they took over, you know, they ran that show. Uh, and they got me, you know, flipped over. Um, most of my gear was cut off me and across the street to where the medevac helicopter was going to pick me up, right? Without doing any damage, right? You
Hmm.
know,
Hmm.
any further damage anyway. So, you know, they saved my life. There's no doubt, you know.
Sure.
Uh, I don't even know their names. You know, that's the sad part about it, right? But so they're loading me onto the helicopter and you know, like you know, in the Marine Corps, we always had that saying, right? You know, embrace the suck,
Yeah.
right? And you know, because you know, I'll say this because I know, you know, obviously, like you know, every branch is the same, but you know, Marines are really good at thriving when things suck, right? So, I mean, all our military members are, right? You know,
Right.
that's where we do our best work, right?
Yep.
And so I knew that I had this life-changing event and there's nothing I can do about it, right? So I'm not going to whine about it, you know? What it's not going to change anything, right?
That's right.
So I say to the guy, the paramedic that's loading me out to the helicopter, you know, I was kind of kidding. I say kind of. And I said, "Hey, when we get to altitude, can you throw me out the door?" Right? You know, you know, he got mad, right? You know, not on my watch, you know. And listen, I respect that, right?
Sure.
I do, you know, but um, I felt like a sack of meat. You
Hmm.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I had no hope. Like my life was over. It was finished, right? That's what's going on in my brain, right? And so if he would have said, "Yeah," I would have been like, "All right, go, let's go." Throw me right out that door. Because I don't want to do this. I don't.
Yeah.
So, you know, we land at the hospital and, you know, I can move my head so I can, you know, see what's going on. So they pull me off the helicopter and there's like 20 like doctors and nurses and technicians, like they're all lined up. And I'm thinking to myself, that can't be for me. Right. Like I don't, you know, there's no way. So I'm thinking like, well, maybe there was a bad accident on a highway or something because there's so many of them. You know what
Right.
I mean? Like, and so as soon as I get off, like, man, they're all over me, man. They're cutting everything off me and IVs in me, and they got like the portable X-ray machine, and as they're running down the hallway with me, everything, this is all going on, and they're getting me into the room and everything, and um, so the intake nurse that's asking me questions, right? You know, I said to her, I said, like, hey, did something happen? Because I see all these people, right? And she stopped and she smiled and she looked at me. She's like, you, you happened. You know what I mean? Like, she's like, almost like, what are you, an idiot? So it was kind of funny, but I, they, at that moment though, like I realized though that like I was in like really good hands, right? And then these people, like, they really cared, man. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
they're going all out, and but the thing is, like, I can't figure out why. Like, what something I don't know because I'm finished, right? You,
Hmm.
you know what I mean? Like, what are we doing here?
Well,
Like,
you
I
already
don't.
threw in the towel, 5,000 feet up in the air,
Right, I
and
was kind
so
of done.
why are they all clamoring to try to help save you? You were already done as far as you were concerned, right?
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, you're wasting your time. What are you doing? Right? Is what I'm thinking,
Yeah,
right?
right.
And so they must have X-rayed me like 4 or 5 times. They checked every inch of my body, right?
Hmm.
And their thing was like they couldn't understand like how I didn't have any like broken bones or not even a scratch on me. I didn't even have a scratch, right?
Like
Um,
not even in your neck, like none of the bones, nothing was broken
well,
there.
my neck broke. I
Your
broke
neck.
5 and 6.
Okay.
You know, I come to find out that my discs, the impact was so like powerful that it like crumbled them.
Oh, okay.
Kind of blew out 5 and 6. So, you know, yeah, but so they were just amazed though, like that I didn't like get all banged up and nothing,
Yeah.
and so they got me to the intensive care unit and everything, and I had managed to keep it together pretty good up to this point, right? And I think it's because my mind was occupied,
Yeah, sure.
you know. Um, and then they gave me something, man, and it was like, man, I was like, whoa, like it was pretty strong stuff. But um, your mind can be like, so your mind can launch you into like greatness. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
But it can also drag you down to the lowest pit of hell, right?
Yeah.
It can drag you down so far down if you let it, Um, and that's where I was going with, it was dragging me down, and I'm sitting in ICU. I'm waiting for the doctor. Um, and all these thoughts are in your head, man. And like the feeling of like impending doom, man, was so heavy, right? It was like a heavy blanket on top of me. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it was almost like hard to breathe, just thinking about it, And you know, I, I'm not embarrassed to talk about it. Okay. Especially because it might help somebody. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So and I say, like, yeah, hey, like, walk a mile in my shoes, right? Before you judge me. You know what I mean? It
Sure.
is what it is. Um, I, my mind, I think, I got to find a way to kill myself. I can't do this. I'm not going to do this. Um, there's no way I can do it. So, but I can't move. What am I,
Right.
what am I going to do? Like the nurse is not going to come in and overdose me, right?
Right.
That's not going to go on. Um, now, what I'm about to say is going to sound ridiculous, but again, you have to put yourself in my shoes, right? So, I I s I remember this movie that I saw years earlier, right? And it was, the Silence of the Lambs,
Hmm.
right? So, okay.
Yep.
So,
Familiar. Yep.
there's a real brief part of the movie, like, you would miss it if you weren't paying attention, right? That when Hannibal Lecter something happens, like, with Jodie Foster in a movie, and Hannibal Lecter convinces the nut job in the cell next to him to swallow his tongue and kill himself. He did something to Jodie Foster, and so next time she shows up, he's like, "Yeah, so and so, I made him swallow," whatever he said,
Yeah.
swallow his tongue. And so I'm thinking to myself, like, shit, I can move my tongue,
Shit.
Um,
Yeah.
I'm going to swallow my tongue. That's it. That's my only way out of here. Right. So I spend the next like 30 minutes trying to swallow my tongue. Right. And I mean, I'm really trying, um, and I can't do it. So I don't, it must, it's probably impossible. It's probably like a Hollywood thing. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
right.
What? At the time, I didn't know that. It's funny now. Now I think about it, it's kind of funny sitting there like trying to swallow my tongue. But I realized that I couldn't do it. And so I made this plan in my brain that, all right, when I get out of here, I'm gonna get a motorized wheelchair and I'm gonna drive it in front of a bus, right? And then I'm like, no, a train, like you know what I mean? Because it's like that's your brain is like, and but I want to jump forward though a little bit
Yeah,
because
yeah,
I don't want to forget this point. Like the whole point of my story, right? And major reason why I'm even telling it now is because um we never know the end of our story, right? We don't know how our story ends.
mhm,
And that's why you can't ever give up. You have to, I say to people like you got to keep fighting till the lights go out, man. That's it. Just fight till the lights go out. Uh, because well, number one, if we knew the end of our story, how boring would life be, right?
right.
That that would be that would be really lame. And I look back at all the, like I have issues that I got to deal with the rest of my life, right? My lip, my hands, whatever. So what? I'm still alive though.
Sure.
I can still do everything I can do. Yeah, I'm just slower, and I'm a little weaker, but it's better than the alternative, right?
Right.
So what a waste it would have been had I been able to swallow my tongue,
Yeah.
or ditch it into the trees, right? But again, but you don't think like that, when you're in that situation, if you don't know any better, your mind will just take you to that dark, nasty place.
Right. Well, and
So
and as you're sitting here, so I just want to, for the listeners who maybe aren't watching the video version of this, YouTube or whatever, but um, throughout this whole conversation, um, I could tell you're the type of guy, typical, kind of New York, New Jersey kind of area. You're talking with your hands
yeah, yeah,
quite a bit,
I'm
right?
Italian, yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
right.
an
So
Italian thing.
right,
You look at my last name. I probably got a few Italian people in my family as well.
right,
Uh, we talk with our hands, right? And
right.
my gosh, if they took that away from you, oh my God, I don't know how you'd communicate. But
Exactly,
but
right.
but what I guess my point is, so you're up there, you're paralyzed, you had no use to your arms or legs or anything like that, but you're sitting here and I can see your hands moving this whole time. So obviously things got better, right?
Yeah, um, yeah, exactly, and, but it's a battle though, right?
Yeah.
And things only got better, like, so doctor came in and he told me that my discs crumbled, right, from the X-ray, he saw it, but he didn't know if my cord was severed.
Hmm.
He had no idea, he couldn't tell. So I'm going right for MRI, right to surgery, and it was, I open my eyes, I'm right where I was, right?
Okay.
And, he comes in at that point and he says, "Okay, look, everything I did was a success. Um, the disc, they didn't sever my cord, right? So it's damaged. I have a damaged spinal cord. It's really bruised and swollen, but it's not severed." He said that another 2 hours, had I gone another 2 hours without the surgery, I'd have been paralyzed for the neck down the rest of my life, no matter what. Right. Now, he also said, though, he had no idea what my recovery looked like. He
Right.
said, because some people will walk, some won't. At this point, he says it's just luck. I said, okay. But what he said to me though was, if you stay positive, right, and put the work in, he said, it's up to you. You know, okay, it's up to me, right? Now, um, that's a daunting task. Okay, and my first thought was, well, I don't even know if I have that in me at this point.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that's where most people, if they're going to give up, it's right at that moment because the mountain is so big,
Hmm.
right? It's just like, whoa. And that's what it was like for me. Like, I lost the connection from my neck around my muscles, right?
Yeah.
From my brain to like it got right up my neck, right here.
Hmm.
So I had to relearn everything, like, yeah, okay, I had to relearn how to walk, but I also had to relearn how to tie my shoes, hold a fork, brush my teeth, put socks on. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I bef- before I got any like significant movements, it was probably 5 weeks after that. You know, all the movement I got quickly was like, momentum kind of movements. Like I could throw like uh, but there was no like my hands were curled in. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
so it was. It's such a big task. That's the point you would give up, right? Because like, how you going to get through that mountain? And it's like, that old cliche, right? Like, how do you eat an elephant,
Right.
right?
Yeah. One bite
One
at a
bite at a
time.
time,
Right.
right? But, I narrowed that down to a little, you not narrow it down, but I expanded it actually, because it's not just one bite at a time, because, you know, I've been there before, and I know that eating the elephant is like, that first bite of the elephant, it's going to taste disgusting. It's going to be the most disgusting thing you ever tasted in your life, you know? Um, and that's the same, like with me, like that first trying to move something like that. It's how the hell am I going to do that?
Yeah. Sure.
And then a little time goes by, right? And then you're like, all right, well, I'll tolerate eating the elephant, right? It's not that bad, right? And a little time goes by, and you're like, I like the elephant, I like it. It's not bad. I'll eat the elephant. But then when you get to over that hump where you're like, I love eating the elephant, I got to have the elephant. Then, you got it made at that point, right?
Sure.
But that's a long way down the road. You know what I mean? Like, so you gotta, for example, like my first day in physical therapy, right? They picked me up, they put me on this table, right? That they can raise up and down, right? And they're like, all right, move your leg. Well, I can't move my leg. Move your leg. I can't move my leg. Just, well, come on, move your leg. So you give it everything. Like, I mean, every ounce of energy I can muster up, and I might have moved my leg, like, I don't know, this much. Right. And they're all like, yeah, like it was like, and I'm thinking about like, that's success.
Sure.
Oh man, I got a long way to go,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, but then I realized though, it's one small victory stacked up,
Right.
every day.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's not like you're
And I love how you put it too. Like usually that saying, how do you eat an elephant? It usually stops at one bite at a time.
right.
But then the way you said it, I love this because I've never heard it put this way before. But how it's it's disgusting at first. It's like
Ah,
the most
right.
vile, nasty thing you ever tasted. But then the next after a little while, then it's like okay, I'll tolerate it. It's not the worst thing anymore. And then eventually you get over that hump, and you're like I freaking love this stuff. And it's like that motivation that ends up building because you have those small victories built up
Right.
over time where you see, okay, well, I was only able to move it, a quarter of an inch, and now I'm able to move it a half an inch, and now I'm able to move it, 5 inches. Now I'm able to,
Right.
all those things, and they build up, and it's like, well, shit, if I could do that, what else can I do? Like, if I just keep putting the work in and keep trying, like the doctor said, what else could I do? Maybe I'll be able to walk again, but again, you got to put the work in.
Right. And that's the thing is like, no one's coming to help you.
Yeah.
Right. You have to realize that, right? There's no pill. You got to do yourself.
And
This is like, you got to put the work in.
it's
This is you.
it's just like skydiving too, right? Where like you're up there and you're
Right.
falling, nobody's pulling the cord for you. That's
No,
on you. Yeah.
it's totally on you,
Yeah.
but my physical therapist though, they were, this hospital I was in specialized in spinal cord and traumatic brain injuries. Right. And they were unbelievable. They were fantastic people. Right. And, you know, but the thing with them was though, like what they really did was they taught me that the only thing holding me back was my mind.
Hmm.
Okay. And once I could get control of my mind, then I could do anything. Right. And not, obviously not just me, anybody. It's the same for once you get control of your mind and don't let it beat you down, you know, um, and it's like, we're talking about the elephant when you start to love it, right?
Yeah.
So they now, as motivated as I was, so they loved me now, right? So now, whenever a patient would cancel an appointment, they would come and see if I wanted to fill the slot.
Oh,
I
great.
would always said yes, always, and um, for two reasons, right? I knew it would help me get better, but it was also, COVID was going on. You couldn't leave your room, like, you know what I mean? So you
Yeah.
were trapped,
That's right. I
you
forgot
know?
about all that. That's what was going on at that time. Yeah. Holy
Yeah.
crap.
So I would always say yes, right? And by the time I ended up getting discharged from the hospital, I was doing like 5 hours of therapy a day, and they have this exoskeleton suit, right? That they put you in, and you sit they hook you up while you're in your wheelchair, and they can control it, right? And man, they stand you up right out of your wheelchair, right? It's like, whoa, now you're standing up, and they can do the suit can do all of the walking for you, right? Or they can dial it back, and then you got to pick up, because now what the suit does is it retrains your brain to hook up with your muscles.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. And it's amazing. It works fantastic, and so I was going through therapy and everything was going great, like I was like so psyched, because like, and also too though, like, you know, I've thought about my whole situation, right? Everything that went, everything that bad happened to me was countered by something good, you know, like my neck broke, my discs crumbled. Now, had they stayed intact, they probably would have severed my cord, right?
Yeah.
Um, I didn't just decide to float off and take that last ride. I decided to try to get close to the drop zone. So that saved all the time of having them come to find me,
Hmm.
right? So that stopped me from being paralyzed from the neck down, right? Um, the chain link fence. Well, even before that, that wind that turned me into the wind, right?
Right.
That slowed me down some, right? And then the chain link fence that absorbed all the impact, saved my life, So all these little right, and I just said to myself, "There's no way. There's too many coincidences." Now people might not believe that, and that's fine. Um, but I thought to myself that, you know, I asked right to be saved, right before I smacked into that fence, right, and then I started to think that, well, if I believed that that was the case, right, if I believe that God intervened and I'm alive because of that, well, then I had to believe that I was going to walk out of that hospital. Because why would he abandon me now when I'd be able the most challenging part
Yeah.
it was now. What was he going to do? Just, I'm busy, walk away? Like that didn't make any it didn't make sense to me.
He's
So
not going to half-ass it, right?
exactly, right. You know what I mean? It's not like you're not lazy, you know what I mean? Um so that was where I was like, no way, I'm walking out of here.
Right.
Like I'm walking out of this hospital. And um I one point, some new physician's assistant came in and he started telling me like, listen, like, don't get your hopes up because, you don't want to get let down. And I threw him, I said, get out. I called my nurse and I said, listen, get him out of here. I don't even want to see him again. Like, no offense, but if you're on my team, like we're going for the win here, man. We're not going for a tie.
Right.
I don't want to hear that. That's not a possibility, and I kept that, um, attitude, right up until again, like, because like rock bottom, there's no such thing as rock bottom, right? It's a never ending pit, when you
Yeah,
think
that's
you're at
right.
rock bottom, something bad, something else is gonna happen, right? It's never ending, So I'm sitting here, I get wheeled back into my room for lunch, right? And I asked the nurse if she can dial my wife's phone number because I can't move, my fingers or anything yet, and so my wife gets on her phone and I could tell something's wrong. I ask her, what's going on? And she starts crying. One of my dogs um, died, right? She was teaching from home because of COVID
Oh, right.
and she dismissed her class for lunch and the dog walked in the room and just died, right? I mean, literally like probably a half hour earlier, right? And I had to get off the phone because it leveled me, man. Like
Mhm.
like I just felt like, like, man, I feel like I'm under attack at this point,
Yeah.
And all that hope, right? It's like it's gone, right? And so I'm sitting in my room and I'm sitting in a wheelchair and I'm like staring at the wall and I'm like, you know what? I'm done. I can't do this. So I'm thinking, you know what? I'm gonna tell my wife to wheel me into a nursing home and close the door, make believe I'm dead because I just can't do this no more. And but I'm sitting here and again, hope is like fleeting, right?
Yeah.
It's fickle, man, and it's gone, right? But faith is like rock solid, man. That's like a movement. It's a different kind of belief, you know. And so I mean, I sat there and I prayed for the strength to get back into the fight. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't want to go out this way. And I started to remember when I was a drill instructor for the police academy, right? And I was like the nasty drill instructor, right? And I hated the job. I didn't like it, but I was good at it though. That's the thing. Like I was good at it, and it's all an act. But it's a necessary job.
It is.
You know,
Yeah.
I wasn't there for them to like me. I was there to teach them to like reach down, like deep inside, and find that will to survive, right? And to never quit, right? No matter what, you're
Right.
getting your ass like deep inside, and find that will to. What I tried to instill in these recruits because that's what you need. You have to have that will to fight, right?
Mhm.
So now I'm sitting here and I realize now that it hit me pretty hard. I realized this that I've now like become two things that I despise, right? A victim and a hypocrite, right? And seriously,
Sure.
I'm sitting here because I'm going to quit, right?
Yeah.
And it goes against everything like I've been, so that's what I thought about, right? And it actually reminded me who I was, and more importantly, reminded me who I was fighting for, right? Because it's not, I wasn't in it alone. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like, so obviously I was fighting for my wife, my kids, and that was enough to get me back into the fight, right?
Right.
So I went in there with a new attitude, and I told the therapist, like, listen, I want more pain and I want more suffering. Okay. Because the quicker that I take the pain and the suffering, I can go home. Right. But I can go home not in that damn wheelchair. I can go home on my feet.
Yeah.
That's the difference, because that wheelchair, man, it feels like it sucks you in. It's like a vortex. Man, it's horrible. Right. And, you start to get small. Right. And so that was it, and so I went back and again, hit it hard and the whole bit, and you're in therapy with people. Some are worse, some are better, some are just like you, but you would see somebody one day and things were different. And you didn't, like, you don't know, you can't figure out what's wrong with them. But then you realize that they gave up, they quit.
Wow. Yeah.
Okay. And there's nothing that you can do or say to them to change their mindset, right? They were done like I was, you
Mhm.
know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Like, but the thing was though, like they didn't improve anymore. Like they were stuck and that's where they stayed, and it was very frustrating, man,
Well, and
um,
that mindset that you're talking about too, like the mindset that you trained in those recruits, right? That you're in that fight, you're getting your teeth kicked in, you're getting battered and bleeding, and it sucks. You can't quit. It's I think it's maybe easier to have that mindset in, let's say, a fist fight, where it's a shorter duration, right? You're not talking
right,
months and years of recovery and things like that. You're talking, a few minutes of I gotta have this intensity. You got the adrenaline pumping, that's going for you. That's
right,
pushing you forward. You got all sorts of stuff going for you that helps keep you in that fight. And that's probably a biological, I'm not a scientist, I don't know. some
Right.
biological response somehow that keeps you in survival mode. But that's hard to maintain over the long
Yeah,
haul,
oh, yeah,
right? And
right?
so what you did, looking at those external things, not yourself necessarily, because as far as you were concerned, throw in the towel, who cares? But
Right,
okay, but what is that going to do to your wife, to your kids, to the other people that are in your life? And it's like, well, shit, I don't want to do that to those people. Like
right,
that's a pretty asshole thing to do to those kind of people, right? Those people who are important to you. And so now you have that external motivation, and now you're like, well, hell yeah, I'm gonna fight. I'm not quitting. I don't care what comes my way. And think about it like right now, if some guy bursts through the door and is coming to attack my family, I don't care what the hell happens to me. I'm stopping that guy,
right,
right? And so it's like, because I don't want anything bad to happen to them, physically, emotionally, I don't want any bad stuff coming to them. So same idea in your head. It's like, I don't want any of that bad stuff happening to them. I don't want them to have to deal with, me as a quitter, or, whatever,
right,
label you want to put on yourself. Um, and so it totally makes sense. Like this whole journey that you're talking about, it, like, I get it. Like, I get where you're coming from. And I think a lot of listeners probably will understand kind of where you're coming from as well. And understand that, yeah, you do got to dig deep and find that
right,
motivation, that will to keep going. Um, because that's on you. And yeah, there's going to
yeah,
be some people who kind of give up over time, but that's something that they maybe just didn't find that fire, that thing, that spark to keep them going.
right,
And
right,
for whatever reason, um, people like you found it, right? And
right,
that's, I think it's important to really highlight that, how you were able to figure out that piece of it, because I feel like that might be the reason why so many people just give up when things get tough, whether they're going through a physical injury like this, or maybe it's some psychological, mental, issues that they're going through. Maybe it's a divorce, or it's a, some other
right, right.
financial situation that they're going through, and it's a tough circumstance in their life, and they just don't know how to deal with it. How do I move forward?
Right.
And unfortunately, well, fortunately and unfortunately, like in your case, it was fortunate. You didn't have the use of your hands, or your limbs, or anything like that, where you were able to do something to harm yourself in those moments
Right.
where you had those low moments, and you're just like, you know what, screw it, I'm done. Um, Unfortunately, though, there's plenty of people who do have access to their hands or limbs, or everything, that
Right.
they're able to do those things without being forced, like you were. You were forced to sit there with your thoughts. You're forced,
Right.
at 5,000 feet, you had 5 minutes to float down to earth, and you were forced to sit there with your thoughts. In the hospital, you're forced to sit there with your thoughts. And eventually, I, I guess in your case, anyways, the survival side of your brain won, right? And that's why you're here today talking about what you're talking about, right? That's
Yeah. And
that's why you're
so I learned that, two important things is like, and I think that a lot of people, when they quit, it's at different like stages, right? So like, when the task is so big, like we talked about,
yeah,
when it's so overwhelming, you know what I mean? Like, that's where most people I think will quit, and then the other thing I learned that too, though, was like, dying is easy.
yeah,
Okay. Living is hard. Right. And sometimes it's the easy way out, but, it's also selfish in a way,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, it doesn't
because
make it right just 'cause it's easy.
right. And again, it's easy, like, yeah, so it's easy for me to give up and say, put me in a nursing home,
Yeah.
and just close the door, leave me alone. And I'll stare at the window the rest of my life. Um, no, that's not a way I would want to live, but it would be easy for me,
Mm-hmm.
you know, but it'd be selfish, right?
Sure, sure.
You know what I'm saying? So, that again, and that's what motivated me though,
Mm-hmm.
and everybody's different, I guess. And look, I'm very fortunate that I had the experience of boot camp, right?
Yeah,
Like that, where, I learned quickly in boot camp that, if you don't mind, I'll quickly tell a story because it's relevant,
yeah, sure.
right? So, here I am in Paris Island. I'm 18 years old. Um, I didn't have no hard knock life story where I was, street biking since I was like 9 out there. It wasn't like that. I came from a middle class family, right? Next thing I know, here I am in Paris Island getting my ass kicked every day, and, um, like everybody else,
Sure.
right? That's the thing too. You look around like everybody else. And, so I got my Dear John letter came, but it wasn't a letter. It was a phone call, right? Because I had a pass to make a phone call because since I was in the reserves, um, I was an 84-day reservist. So I had to, as soon as I got out of boot camp, I had to report to my duty station the next day because I was going after school the following summer.
Okay.
Right. So my parents are coming to my graduation and they were going to drive down and we were going to drive home. But then I found out I had to report to, Picatinny Arsenal up here the next morning. So plans changed. So they had given me a pass to make a phone call. And, I don't know what it's like now, but back then, and I'm sure it's very similar, you didn't make any phone calls ever.
Yeah.
Like we couldn't even watch TV, right? Like you're lucky if you read a letter, this is 1986. So I had my pass to make that phone call, and I I remember I was walking back from a dentist appointment, and nobody was around by the mess hall, and I'm like, all right, I'm going to make my phone call, but instead of calling my parents, I called my girlfriend, right? Because
Yeah.
and well, come to find out, just, her little sister answers the phone, and she's like, "What are you doing calling?" So and so's got a new boyfriend now. I'm like, "Oh yeah, who?" It's my best friend, of course, whatever. Her mother gets on the phone and whatever. Needless to say, it turned out to be a nightmare, right?
Yep. Yep.
So I ended up walking back, to my squad mate there and my bunkie, he looks at me, he's like, what the hell happened to you? And I told him what happened, and he's like, you got to get your shit together, man. Like that, who cares? Like that doesn't matter. You're here, you know? And I'm like, I knew he's right,
Right.
so he's like, look, you got till tomorrow or we're gonna take you in the shower and beat your fucking head in. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
if the drill instructor finds out what you did, number one, you're dead. You are a dead man, and we're gonna pay with you.
Yep. Yeah.
Because that's
Yeah.
just
Because
the way it is.
everybody gets punished.
Everybody's
100%.
getting a
Yep.
piece of that,
Yep.
And so I thought about it, and he was right. Like who cares, man? I'm here now, right? So I just buried that down deep, and I just from that moment on, that was the moment though that I can look back to this day and say I became hardcore that day because I was free. You know what I mean? Like I didn't care anymore. Like whatever. Yeah, we're at the rappelling tower. Yeah, you want me to clear the tower in 3 jumps? No, I'm gonna do it in 1. You know what I mean? Next thing you know, I'm doing like a million push-ups because like what the what's wrong with you? You know. But I knew they weren't gonna let me die. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
so things changed, man. But in the good way, changed in a good way. You know what I mean? Like I realized what was important, and that's the moment I came hardcore. But like a lot of people don't have that fantastic experience of going through stuff like that. Like they grow up and they're 26 years old and their mother's still making their bed or making them peanut butter and jelly sandwiches as they go off to work in some cubicle somewhere.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like they don't, and that's a shame because they don't realize um, how far you can go. Like as human beings, we underestimate our ability to like to persevere in extreme hardship, right?
Yeah.
We just don't until you have to do it, you know. And when you have no choice, you'll do incredible things, right?
It's funny that you called that a fantastic experience just a few seconds ago, because that person who's 26 years old sitting in a cubicle and their mom's still making their bed and all that kind of stuff. They would think that's a terrible experience. That they'd be like,
Yeah,
"Why
you're
why
right.
would you ever call that a fantastic experience? That sounds awful. Why that's" but that experience, you know, forget about the fact that, yeah, that sucked at the time. It got your mind you got your mind right and got you to the point where now fast forward to you're in a hospital room, literally, fighting for your life, and
Right,
that experience put your mind in that right space to be able to say, "Hey, you know what? None of this other shit matters. I got a job to do here," and that's to
right.
be able to, get up from out of this wheelchair and work on that. So that's what I'm going to do.
The other thing too was like, so I'm from, upstate New York, and I was in North Carolina, and I had to figure out whether I was going to stay there or come up to New York for therapy,
Yeah,
right? And I decided to stay there because I didn't want any distractions. I knew
sure.
I had one shot to walk out of that hospital, and I knew that I just wanted to focus on that,
Uh huh.
like nothing else existed or mattered because nothing else really did matter. I had to walk out of that hospital,
Yeah.
so I was fortunate that I made the right decision on that one,
Yeah.
because yeah, sure I wanted to see my family, but how would that help me get to the finish line? It wouldn't. It would
Right.
distract
It would be a
me, you know?
distraction. Yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um.
So,
So I know in the background there you got a copy of your book. I want to make sure we have a chance to chat about your book a little bit.
oh,
Uh, Book's titled "Not My Time." Uh, Tell us a little bit about the book. I mean, I'm sure it's a lot of what we already talked about here. But what do you hope readers can take away from it? Kind of what's the key message that you want folks to take away from it?
um, so like, all right. So the book is like, so my memoir, and, it explains i- everything we're talking about is in the book. But one of the major things in the book is when you're paralyzed and you can't move, right? And, you can't escape. The only place you can escape to is in your head, right? That's your only
Yeah,
place to escape to, right? And so my escape, you know, laying in that bed, for as ever long as I did was, I would go back to places that I was at my strongest and in the most control because I'm now laying in this hospital bed at my weakest and I have no control,
yeah,
right? So the story weaves through, my experience, what's going on in the hospital, but it also weaves through my thoughts as to where I run off to, and it's a lot of police stories, and they're usually pretty, I think they're pretty funny stories, and, because it's the camaraderie, right?
sure,
We could talk about, this drug bust or that drug bust, but that's work. You know what I mean? Like that's, the good stuff is the interactions between your buddies. You know what I mean? That's what it's all about.
yeah,
And so that's why, like, I enjoyed writing it, but I had no plans on writing the book. Absolutely none. You know, all the doctors that I came across, they all said I should write the book. Right? You got to write a book. Yeah, because your recovery is like, they were amazed because it's like they told me it was like a 1 in 5 million recovery, right? Um, the way it started to like progress, I believe it's all mindset. You know what I mean? Like,
hmm hmm
uh, so they were like, write the book, and because when I got out of the hospital, 2 months I was out of the hospital. I walked out. I did walk out. Of course, they told me I couldn't walk out. I had to be wheeled out, and I just laughed at them. Yeah, okay, and I just walked out, and they're chasing me behind me with the wheelchair. Yeah, okay, but there's no way. There's no way that I was getting wheeled out of the hospital. That was
right.
not going to happen. So, I got home and I started going to therapy, and they were great too. And after a couple months, you know, I you know, a lot of people disagree with me, but hey, I I went to the drop zone by my house, right? And I was looking to get up in the air, and not because like I was looking for attention. Okay. And nothing to do with that. It's not like, hey, look at me, I'm skydiving. Absolutely not. Um, but if I didn't jump in 6 months from my accident, I'd lose my license. Okay.
No.
And I knew that if I lost my license, nobody would let me get it back. Right. Because of the stigma with the neck, you
Yep.
broke your neck, no way, okay. So I'm running out of time in my mind, right? Because, they say with a spinal cord injury like this, 6 months, you make all your major improvements, and then you have a year and a half to get your little minor, movements. Then after that, nothing, right? I believed that, and they were wrong, and I wish they didn't tell me that, but that's what I believed. So I started to fish around trying to see if anybody would help me get back in the air, and no way, they were like, absolutely not. There's no way. You never skydive ever again. Um, and it really pissed me off though, because like I saw like veterans were jumping, right? Some of these guys are missing arms and legs.
Right.
They modify their gear and then they get it done. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm like, well, I don't understand. Like, why can't I do that? Right. And they wouldn't hear it, and it was frustrating. Um, I hadn't seen my gear, and, I almost felt like I did something wrong.
Mhm.
It's almost like they were hiding my gear from me, right? Like I was a teenager, right? That I stayed out too late. They took my car keys away,
Right.
right?
Right.
So, I was starting to get like again the brain. I was starting to lose control of my brain. Too late. They took my car keys away, right? Because, like, but the reason though, too, though, it's not. It was important to me because, and again, I was starting to get like depressed. You wake up in the morning and it's very easy. I can lay in bed and sit there and say, "Oh man, everything hurts." You know what? I, I'm just gonna lay in bed all day, right? But I didn't want to make that easy for me, so I wanted to skydive because this way, if that happened, I could say to myself, "Oh, bullshit! You can go skydiving, right? You not you get out of bed, get dressed. Just don't be a victim, man. Don't sit here feeling sorry for yourself, and but listen, nobody saw it my way. They passed judgment and whatever, but I was determined that I was going to jump one way or the other. And, so I ended up calling up a friend of mine. She's, she was a sergeant in the Marine Corps. She was a New Jersey State Trooper sergeant. She was the drop zone manager of Skydive Shenandoah in Virginia at the time. And, now the person who owned the drop zone by my house also owned the one in Virginia. So I called her up, and she was also my rigger too, and so I kind of went off, not on her though,
Mhm. Mm.
like I don't know where my gear is. Um, no one will help me, just feeling sorry for myself, being a whiner. And so she's like, look, I got your gear. I'm working on it, but it's so messed up. I need more time. She said, "Hey, you want to jump?" I'm like, yeah. She goes, okay, I'll take you for a jump. You got to get a doctor's note, and if you get a doctor's note, you meet me in Virginia in 4 weeks, I'll take you for a jump. Okay. But I said, like, look, don't play games. You know what I mean? Like, don't, this is too important. Let's not, no, no, no. And I didn't think she would anyway. So I called my doctor up and they thought it was a great idea, right? They were all into it, and I got to say that one thing, like the doctors down in North Carolina, and the therapist, they were fantastic, right? So my doctor was like, "You want to skydive? No problem. You can't do anything to the hardware I put in your neck. There's nothing you can do to hurt that." He said. He said, If you want to skydive, just work hard enough to be able to skydive." Right? Made perfect sense to me.
Sure.
The doctor's up in New York. No way. What are you crazy? You're gonna end up paralyzed. Nah, 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 no, man. So you know what? I just ignored them. Right? I had my note within an hour. I had that note. I was good to go. I didn't tell anybody, because I didn't want anybody getting involved. And everybody's got something to say, and they would have canceled it somehow. So I just kept my mouth shut. And I showed up down in Virginia 4 weeks, and I was nervous that you know she had changed her mind, but she didn't. And and I was still in pretty bad shape. I couldn't button my shirts or my pants yet. I still couldn't tie my shoes. I had elastic shoelaces,
Okay.
I limped, I was hunched over, but I knew I could skydive because I had done this skydive about 1,000 times in my in my mind, right? I went over every single, you know what I mean? This thing was all mapped out. So, she told me though, look, if you do anything unsafe or I don't feel you're ready, I'm going to ground you for 6 months. No questions asked. I, okay, no problem. Because number one, I don't want to jump if I'm not safe, right?
Sure.
And I knew that she would be fair, right? There was no agenda there,
Mhm.
none whatsoever. And you know what? You ground me for 6 months. That's great. Because at least I know I have a plan going forward, right?
Right.
It's not just like, no, you're not jumping, like that. That's crazy. So get on the plane. It's a little Cessna. And, you know, I don't know what to expect. And I'm not nervous though, because I'm just, I'm anticipating what's going to happen. Right.
Mhm.
So, she gives me the thumbs up. She opens the door and I hang my legs out the side. Right. I'm 2 miles up and I just give her a thumbs up and I lean forward, man. And I just fall out of the plane and, I do like a barrel roll, then a flip and, and I stabilize myself and I'm like, okay, so far so good. I go right, I turn left. I don't know where she is. I don't see her. She's above me, watching me, right?
Okay.
And so she comes down and we hook up and we're both smiling like ear to ear, and we had a plan, I gave her the thumbs up, letting her know that I'm getting ready to deploy now, So she flew around to my side. This way, if I couldn't do it because my hands were so messed up, that she would be able to pull my canopy for me, right?
Sure.
Well, whatever. I deploy and it works good. Everything's boom, perfect. You know, and oh man, I got line twists, right? Damn. Now it's not a big deal. It happens all the time, right? Problem was my shoulders were so locked up that I couldn't reach high enough up, right?
Oh, okay.
To clear them. So I had to scissor kick my way out of them, and I'm like, oh man, come on, And like 30 seconds up, I pop out of it, right? I'm like, okay, 4,000 feet. Oh, this is awesome. So I pull my leg straps down and I sit in my harness like a chair, and man, it's so quiet. And I got all this time to think. And like, I'm so grateful, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, cause like I could walk and now I'm actually skydiving. Like you have no idea. Right. And I think about all the people that I met and who have helped me and everything. Right. And like, but what hit me was I thought like 5 months and 12 days earlier, I was laying in that backyard in North Carolina, wishing I was dead, right? And, like at that moment, like I just yell like at the top of my lungs, like I'm alive, because at that moment, I feel more alive than I've ever felt any time in my entire life at that moment, right?
Yeah.
What an experience, man. Like if I could box that up and give it to people, oh my God, like it was unbelievable. And, so I landed, she was down quick, I wasn't taking any chances, like I just wanted to come in and land on target and I did, I slid it in. Okay. Boom. I go up I jump another jump, we go. And this time now I come in and I stand my landing up and you know what? To me, that was like a completion, right? Like all right, like I did it,
You
and
graduated at this point, right? In your mind, right?
exactly, right? Like I could put that to rest now, like I don't have to, it didn't have to stress me out anymore. Like, and I knew like, um, all the people, I call them chirpers now, right? All the people running their mouth and you know what I mean? Like it silenced them, right? Because first of all, it's none of their business. Second of all, they would have done the same thing. If they were in my shoes, they would have tried to jump just like I did. And there's no way if anybody, and any skydiver tells you that they wouldn't do that, they're lying. They're lying. You know, um,
Well, it's either that or they
you know,
gave up a long time ago, and they didn't,
exactly right.
Yeah.
Why? I'm not turning that down. If I have a chance to sky, I'm going to do
Right.
it. Like that's like a gift.
You made it this far. Why wouldn't you, try that next thing, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I look at like skydiving now, like because, you know, like everything's changed for me, right? Like the accident changed me.
Hmm.
Like everything is different, the way I think about things and what I think is important, what I know is not important. And, um, like we tend to, take for granted all those little things that we do, like putting your socks on, brushing your teeth, right? Holding a fork, man. That was the longest thing. I can't believe, like if someone were to ask you right now, hey, how do you hold a fork? Right?
Yeah, there it is.
No,
I just
it's
pick it
not
up
that
and,
easy.
and
You can help you.
yeah,
Well, it's really not that easy.
right.
You know what I mean? And it took me a long time. Right. So we take all these little things for granted. Right. Even like when I was in a hospital, I was becoming institutionalized, and, I forgot to forget like all the things that I loved. Right. And then a nurse walks in one day and she's like, hey, you want a cup of coffee? I'm like, me? I can have coffee? Of course you can have coffee. Yeah, I love that cup. It's like 5 weeks. I haven't had a cup of coffee. You know what I mean? I had to drink it through a straw. I didn't care, man. Like, wow, a cup of coffee. You know what I mean? It was like, oh, this is the magical little thing, this little cup of coffee, right? But that's how everything is, though. Like, so I look, like I have this gift, okay, and it is a gift, okay, because I'll tell anybody that. Um, I lost a lot of things from this accident. I lost so much, but I gained more than I lost. Okay.
Hmm.
The things that I lost though on both sides were huge. Okay. Um, but I have this gift now though, that like everything is a magical gift. Like when I get out of bed in the morning, I can put my feet on the ground. Like, yeah, hey, look at that. I'm standing up, like,
Right.
or I can put my stock on. It's like, I mean, everything. Like I can look at every single thing. Like I try to tell people, just try to do that for like 20 minutes or an hour of your day. Think about all those little things that you do. And I get it. Nobody cares about those things until you can't do it anymore. Okay.
You get excited
Then they
about those
matter.
little things, right? You about
Oh,
putting your socks on and brushing your teeth, picking up a fork or a
yeah.
spoon or whatever.
It's huge
Hmm.
because like, Y for example, like, imagine looking at the sock on the floor and you can't pick it up,
Yeah.
put it on your foot, or you can't take your shirt off and put it on, like, um, and those are the things that I daydreamed about in the hospital that you know what I'm saying? Like, it was the little things.
Hmm.
You would think it would be like other things, but no, for me, it wasn't anyway. I can't wait to be able to put underwear on. You know what I mean? Like, I was in a diaper for 4 weeks.
Yeah.
Like, like, come on, you know? So like everything's like a magical gift now, and that could be for everybody too. Like, 'cause if we just like, appreciate the things that we have, right? And the time that you have
Hmm.
too, though, like, and I don't want to like sound like, whatever, like, I don't know what the right word. Like, I'm not trying to sound like, oh, look, everything's like, lollipops and unicorns and all that. No, that's not the case. You know what I mean? I'm human and I can fall right back into my old ways. But the thing now is though that I know how to control my brain, my mind. And when I catch myself thinking the way I used to think, I can bring myself right back to the way I think right now,
Yeah.
because, like, when I was up there floating around, like I never thought once, oh man, I'm going to miss my car, or I wish I had more time to buy a bigger house or a nicer watch. Like that's meaningless stuff to me right now.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, it has no value in my world whatsoever. I look at it differently. Like, I want to build like, wealth and equity in my soul, right? Like,
Okay.
and I'm not talking about like, I'm not trying to save the world here, man. I'm just going to do it by just being good to people. The little easy stuff, man. And not certain people, everybody, whether they deserve it or not. I could care less. It doesn't matter to me, you know, um, because it makes a difference, like, you know,
It's kind of like a ripple effect too, where you affect one person. You're nice to this one person who's maybe having a rough day, and they're maybe being a bit of a dick to you. but you're still nice to them, right? And then maybe that
Right.
kind of changes their attitude a little bit. Maybe not 100, a 180. You're just changing a little bit, right? But that's getting them a little bit closer to not being a dick to other people,
Yeah,
right,
exactly.
and so that then affects those other people that he maybe would have been affecting in a negative way, and then those people now are,
Right.
in a more positive place. It's just that one little thing just kind of spreads out to, God, who knows how many other people, over
Right.
the course of time. And so, it's important to have that kind of mindset, and not be so bogged down by all the, in your words, kind of the more insignificant things in life, right? That so many people get bogged down with. What kind of car am I driving? What kind of,
Right.
house am I living in? What kind of, fancy clothes and watches and all this other crap that at the end of the day it doesn't matter. But like you
It doesn't
said,
matter.
you're trying to build equity in your soul as opposed to your
Right.
bank account or your 401k or whatever. Those things are, yeah, sure, it's important to have. You got to have money. You want to do all these
100%.
things, you got to have
Right.
something, right? But why? What is your why? And now you're looking at affecting the world in a positive way as opposed to, um, you know, affecting yourself in a more selfish way,
Right.
right?
Right. So, and I write in the book where, you know, so we all want to believe that we're all here for some grand purpose,
Sure.
right? We all want to believe that, of course, who wouldn't, But when I looked at my situation and why did I survive and why was I able to walk, um, and again, because like I don't go to church, right? I'm not volunteering at the hospital. Um, so then is it because I have some task I'm supposed to perform, right? Like you
Mhm.
can start to get down into that, right? Um, you know, like what? Save a cat out of a tree, right? Or you're driving down the road, right? And you see this house on fire, right? And you rush in, you save the family, right? And okay, you're a hero, great. Or is it something as simple though as just saying hello to that stranger on the street who might be out of his wits end about to turn the corner maybe and blow his brains out, right? But just because you said hello, maybe that changes his mind,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Uh, uh, you know, uh, that's the way I look at things though. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
Like, and
And that makes sense too, because even like just sharing your story right now on this podcast, I'm sure you've been on others, and other places where you've shared your story in your book and everything. Even just the story, like I've never gone skydiving before, and I've always said if I'm wearing a perfectly good parachute in a perfectly good airplane, I'm going to land in a perfectly good airplane with that perfectly good parachute. But but for other folks who, maybe they were in a similar situation where they rented a suit and it didn't quite fit right.
right,
Um, okay, well, that's something that they might be like, hey, this suit, no, give me something else, because this suit is not going to cut it
right,
for me because of the story that you just shared. And they're like, well, I don't want to have my neck snapped 5,000 feet in the air. So
yeah,
yeah, get me something that works so that that doesn't happen. Little lessons like that, and then okay, now that person, they land, they're safe, they're happy, healthy. They had a fun day. And they can
right,
talk about it with their friends over a beer or whatever, and have a good time. But maybe that spared that person the agony and the trauma that you went through, just by sharing your story. And so it's like little things like that. Even saying hello on the street, but
right,
things that you're almost taking for granted as like, oh, no big deal. I'm here doing a podcast, whatever. But to somebody
right.
else, that could completely change their life.
That would be great. I mean, and so you know, I s- after that jump, I started skydiving again.
Hmm. Hmm.
And it's slow. I've done since that jump, I've done 108 jumps. Um, I'm 108 jumps past my accident,
Okay.
right? And I started. So Shauna Finley, she's the person who took me on the jump, right? And so she owns that drop zone in Virginia now, right? So she asked me to do the ground crew stuff there, which is, loading the plane,
Hmm.
right? Hold the ladder. They just, just looking at people's gear, make sure nothing obvious, and
Sure.
it's it's not hard, and but I still skydive though. And I'll see the winds are a little, I don't know, little iffy, right? Where normally before I got hurt, I'd be on that plane. I wouldn't think twice about it. No, I'm going to jump. I don't care.
Sure.
I'm good. Now I'm like, nah, I'm taking myself off the load. And what I noticed though is a lot of times when I do that, other people take themselves off the load because nobody wants to be first, right?
Yeah,
Nobody wants
yeah,
to be the
yeah.
first guy, right?
It's kind of that
So
groupthink, mind, that
yeah,
mindset, right?
exactly. And so it's like, I don't care. Like, hey, think what you want. I'm not,
Yeah,
but another reason though, with me with skydiving too, though, is like, so, um, I'm not a preacher, right? And I'm not a pastor or, you know, and I can't walk around, throwing Bible quotes at people, right? That's first of all, it's not my style.
sure.
It's not what I'm about. Um, but I tell you what, every time I put that parachute on and I jump out of that plane, it's almost like I'm wearing a billboard, right? Because people notice, like, man, you were paralyzed, what, 2.5 years ago? Yeah. No, I'm telling you, and it's a miracle. I think so. For me, I'm
Mhm.
not saying I'm special where I deserve a miracle, but, and it's how I look at skydiving though. Like skydiving is like, it gets to represent, the miracle that God gave me
Yeah.
to be able to live, walk, and skydive again. Right.
Mhm, mhm.
So, um, and if that helps somebody too, like hey, like, I think that's what it's all about though, honestly. Like, and I think, we can't quit and we want to, you gotta, what I've talked about the chirpers before, right? All those people that want to get involved, it's run their mouth and they don't know what they're talking about. But it affects us so much though. Like I noticed that, like, even like after my accident, I was letting these people they got in my head,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know, and they're hard to get out, you know, and, for the longest time, even after I jumped and, it took me like maybe 40, 50 jumps after that to get those people out of my head, and those people being in my head when I'm skydiving is dangerous,
Sure,
you know?
sure.
Bec- So when I finally got them out of my head, I felt it like, oh man, okay. And it's like shaking off like the nerves, like, okay, I, I got this. I mean, you know what I'm saying? It's like, I don't need to listen to these people that don't know what they're talking about, and so that I
And
learned that lesson too.
and they're promoting the easy stuff, right? It's easy to just not go skydiving. Just stay home.
Right.
Just don't do nothing. And yeah, sure. Is it safer to not go skydiving? Yeah, sure. But for you, it's kind of a necessity. It's that
Right.
thing that like you were saying before. If I can go skydiving, I can go do the hard thing, whatever. And for the listeners, you may not skydiving might not be your hard thing. There's something else out there
Right.
for you, right? But whatever it is, who cares? Um, that's your thing. If you can go do that thing, then yeah, you can get your ass out of bed in the morning. Even though you don't want to, even though your body
Right.
hurts or you're mentally drained, whatever it is that you got going on. Yeah, you could still get up out of bed because you're able to do that hard thing. So that's why that was super important for you to be able to get out there and do that. And, going back to, why you originally started skydiving in the first place, you had that like emptiness, that thing that
Right.
was missing for you, right? That's not going to change just because you had an accident.
Yeah.
You're
Right.
still going to have
Right.
that emptiness that you
Right.
got to kind of fill there. And so I think you showing other people that, yep, I had this accident. It was a traumatic accident. It was awful. Uh, Long recovery process, still not 100% back to, the way you were. Um, but you're able to get out there and do that. And it's like an inspiration to those other people who see you out there, not quitting and putting one foot in front of the other, taking it one step at a
Right.
time, doing things. Yeah, sure, maybe a little bit slower than what you were before, maybe not quite as agile and able to do everything that you were able to do before. Um, but shit, you're still out there doing it.
Right.
And I gotta, say hats off to you. I mean, I think that's
Thank you.
that's a an amazing thing to be able to do, and I think for the listeners, um, use this as your own source of inspiration. Be like, look, man, this this guy had no use of his arms or legs, and now he's out there skydiving, and it's like, yeah, that could have gone terribly wrong, but that mindset that you had, that's
Right.
what got you to that point. And I think this has been an incredible conversation. It's been, for me, this is kind of one of those inspirational things where it's just like I don't know if I want this ever to end, this conversation here, but I know eventually we gotta kind of wrap it up,
Right.
but for the listeners though, if you had like one kind of closing thing to kind of have them take away from this all, anything to kind of wrap it up, tie it up nice and neat, and have them walk away with that.
Yeah. Just, um, never give up, right? We don't know the end of our story, and that's it. Like, we don't know how our story ends, and we just fight till the lights go out. That's it. If you just fight till the lights go out, no matter what it is that you're doing, usually, like, you'll get across the finish
Hmm.
lines one way or the other. You'll you know you'll get across the finish line somehow.
And can you imagine what the shape of the world, the way things would be if, um, we're talking earlier, if you're in that hand to hand combat kind of fight, and the adrenaline's going, and you're giving it all you got in that moment,
Right.
right? And I know you can't sustain that long term. Like
Right.
that's only something that you can do for short bursts and all that. But the mindset that never give up, never quit, never, it doesn't matter how tough things are, how hard things are getting, you just don't give up on
Right.
on whatever it is until, like you said, until the lights go out. It ain't over till it's over, right? Um,
Right.
Imagine if we all just had that mindset and we just don't fucking give up for
Yeah.
anything,
Right. Don't fucking give up, because once, um friend of mine said this to me, right? He said that, um, he was going through something really bad, and he was about to give up because he couldn't see his words were, "I couldn't see the light at the end of the tunnel."
Sure.
Right? And said, but what he didn't realize was that the light was there. It's always there. It's just that he was so far down the tunnel that he couldn't see it.
Hmm.
So if he just kept inching his way forward, then eventually he saw the light.
That's right.
And by seeing the light, it made it so much easier. But he had to inch his way forward to get there.
Yeah,
You
and
know?
you got to
But-
have something to climb towards, right? That light is
right,
the thing that you got to climb towards, and if you're not seeing it right now, maybe you got to do a little bit of work to get there, right? And I think
right,
just to make that analogy for people, that like that was the kind of the moment where you're in the hospital and you couldn't see the light, right? You're
right,
wanting to give up, but then in your head you're like, well, I got a wife, I got kids, I got all these things going on in my life. Okay, well, that's your light now. That's the thing that you
right,
got to go climb towards and get better for them. And yes, it's going to be for you. You're going to have that benefit as well. But
right,
for them, I'm not quitting for anything. And
right.
as far as that's concerned. And so, um, that's I think the takeaway. I mean, hell, that might even be the title of this episode. Is don't give up.
Right, it's right.
Um,
Like, wait till the lights go out, don't give up.
yeah, all that. Fight till the lights go out. I mean, it's definitely the message I think people need to take away from this. Because and again, this show is largely a military veteran based audience.
Right,
But we, whether it's law enforcement, whether it's military, you have a military background as well, but we have that mindset drilled into us. Like you're not going to give up on a mission.
right,
You never quit on that, right? And that's doesn't matter how much it sucks. I remember just going back to basic training. You're talking about how that kind of gets drilled into you. I remember we were out on a kind of mock patrol type thing, and drill sergeant like pointed at a pricker bush. And he said, that's where you need to be. I'm like, the fuck are you talking about? Like, I'm not going to go
Yeah.
lay in a pricker bush. That's going to hurt. He goes, yeah, but
Right.
guess what? The enemy is not going to be walking through there. So they're not going to find you there. And I'm like, well, okay, shit. I mean,
Okay.
I guess that's where we're going to be. So I laid in it. It sucked. It hurt,
Yeah. Right.
but that's what you need to do. Right.
Right.
And just the title of the show, Drive On, is like,
Yeah.
when
Right.
there's a
Right.
shitty situation, like, yeah, it's gonna suck, but yeah, you gotta do it too. So just do it,
Right.
get through it, move through, and fight till the lights go out. And
Right.
I love
And,
that message.
and, even though like, your partner, right? Or, the guy standing next to you, whatever, like, when I had gotten to the shooting, right, and I made my way back to the car, I quite a lot of shit. Like, you know, why do you just sit on the side of the road and wait for the hospital?
Yeah,
Well, because my partner was chasing some dude down the road. What are you talking about?
right. Yeah,
You know
you're
what I
not gonna
mean?
leave
Like,
him alone, right?
right. So, like, and if that's what motivates you, right? Like, so, when you look around, there's always something that's going to motivate you,
That's
right?
right.
And it's just go that extra mile, man.
And just
Just
find out what that thing is. Yeah, it's gonna take some time to maybe figure it out for some people, but
right.
you got something. There's something there.
There's
Um,
something,
so
whatever it is. No.
man, this has been a great conversation. Really inspirational. A lot of great takeaways from this conversation. I really do want to thank you for coming on the show and sharing all this with me and with the listeners.
So,
So thank you, Gary.
all right.